Welcome to the NPT side event titled Advancing the Global Agenda of a Nuclear Weapon-Free World 2024 NPT Preparatory Committee side event. My name is Mihoku Kumamoto. I am Director of UNITAR's Division for Prosperity. This event is co-organized by 4 organizations: UNITAR, Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations in Geneva, Hiroshima Prefecture, and Nagasaki Prefecture. On behalf of UNITAR, we would like to express sincere appreciation for our co-organizers for this side event. We are also delighted to inform you that today we have 22 representatives from the Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly. The first group is Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly Overseas Delegation, led by Mr. Kakashi Nakamoto, Chairperson of the Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly, and also head of delegation is Mr. Shin Uda, and this group consists of 7 members from Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly. Welcome to the side event. And the second group is Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly Overseas Administrative Delegation, consisting of 15 members, led by Mr. Naoyuki Ogata. So a total of 22 people from Hiroshima Prefectural Assembly. Thank you so much and welcome to the side event. Now, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Nikhil Seth, UN Assistant Secretary General and UNITAR Executive Director. Thank you very much. Over to you, Nikhil.
Thank you, Mihoku-san, Your Excellency Ambassador Desiree Schweitzer, Permanent Representative of Austria in Geneva, the Honorable Yuzaki-san, Governor of Hiroshima Prefecture, Baba Yoko-san, the Vice Governor of Nagasaki Prefecture, the Assembly members from Hiroshima, being led by Nakamoto-san, Shinodo-san, and Ogata-san, and all of you who have come for this side event. I want to wish you a very warm welcome to this afternoon's side event. During the second session of the Preparatory Committee of the 26th Review Conference of the Parties to the Treaty on NPT, Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. As the head of UNITAR, I'm especially pleased to be with you as the only UN entity which has a representation in Hiroshima. And much of our work in Hiroshima relates to the issue of nuclear disarmament very appropriately. And I'm so happy to be moderating this critical panel discussion on advancing the global agenda for a nuclear weapon-free world. It's symbolic and very appropriate that we have the governor of Hiroshima with us, of the Hiroshima Prefecture, and we also have the vice governor of the Prefecture of Nagasaki. 2 cities which were so deeply impacted in 1946 on the 6th and the 9th of August respectively. So very happy that this discussion is taking place with them, with their engagement, to bring first-hand their proximity to the devastation which was caused on 6th and 9th of August. In the pursuit of security, in the pursuit of preventing humans from repeating the folly of so many decades ago, it is crucial to assess and discuss the global situation regarding nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. Despite urgent and increasing calls from around the globe for a safer and more peaceful world, the status quo continues and has become more entrenched and sometimes even more threatening. I visited Hiroshima several times because of our presence there, and each time I'm so deeply moved by the experience of going to the Peace Park, going to the Hiroshima Museum, and to see what they've been able to preserve of the horrors that took place in that city so many years ago. The Hibakusha, the atomic bomb survivors, are still there for conversations, who suffered so much physically and psychologically. Women, in particular, have faced discrimination and deep fear of having healthy babies. The impact of one bomb completely changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, and the suffering has not ended. We, not only those present in this room, but humanity in general, must learn from the experience and stories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to make sure such follies are not repeated again. But the question also is how these two countries, if we go to Hiroshima and Nagasaki today, they're very different from what you could have ever imagined. But the question always is, how did these two cities gain the resilience to recover, to become modern cities of peace, ambassadors of peace, brought together by enlightened mayors and enlightened leaders and enlightened governors who led the charge of amplifying the message of peace around the world. Today's panel will be a very eminent panel today, and the purpose of our discussions today is to inspire our audience to once again consider the humanitarian and environmental impact of the atomic bomb and realize the importance of collaboration to achieve a world without nuclear weapons. I would also especially like to welcome Ambassador Desiree Schweitzer for co-organizing this activity and event today. And thank you very much for being here and for hosting this event, Ambassador. And with those words, I will leave it here.
Well, thank you so much, and Excellencies, dear colleagues, Austria is very happy to host and co-host this event, and I want to thank everyone who made it possible. It is also a great honor to be here together with the high-level representatives of the two provinces who stand like no other for the purpose of our work. Your commitment and engagement is inspirational, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you. In discussions about nuclear disarmament, civil society and institutions such as UNITAR, in particular your engagement with youth, is indispensable in this context. In discussions about nuclear disarmament, activism at local and regional level is extremely important. And for my country, it is clear that our goals in disarmament, and in particular commitments by states, must be upheld and pursued. And this also includes a nuclear weapon-free world. Thank you very much. I would have an interesting panel, and I would like to hand over to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Schweitzer. I now give the floor to the next set of opening remarks to Ms. Yuko Baba, the Vice Governor of Nagasaki Prefecture, as her contribution to the opening of this event. Nagasaki Prefecture is also co-host of today's event, along with the Prefecture of Hiroshima and UNITAR. You have the floor, Vice Governor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Yuko Baba, Vice Governor of Nagasaki Prefecture. It is my great honor to welcome you all here today. I have a message from Governor Kengo Oishi, who is absent today, so I will address you on his behalf. As you all know, on August 6, 1945, the first ever atomic bomb in human history was dropped on Hiroshima. Then, 3 days later, on August 9th, the entire city of Nagasaki was also completely destroyed by an atomic bomb, resulting in a combined loss of more than 200,000 lives and futures. In addition, those who barely survived the atomic bombing were left carrying deep physical and emotional scars and suffered from ongoing health problems. To ensure that such a tragedy never occurs again, we, the people of Nagasaki Prefecture, have continued to convey to the world the reality and inhumanity of the atomic bomb with the resolute determination to make Nagasaki the last place to be atomic bomb. However, the current international situation surrounding nuclear weapons is extremely severe, with rising tensions in various regions of the world, resulting in increased risk of the use of nuclear weapons. This situation is difficult to resolve among nations around, and there is still no clear path in sight towards the abolition of nuclear weapons. It is therefore necessary to involve a wide range of people from all over the world. Therefore, the Nagasaki Prefectural Government and the Hiroshima Prefectural Government aim to clearly position the abolition of nuclear weapons as one of the goals of the next SDGs, scheduled for 2030, to realize a truly sustainable world. During today's symposium, I greatly look forward to hearing all the discussions from various individuals around the world about their progress towards achieving a world free of nuclear weapons. Finally, I'd like to conclude my remarks by expressing my sincere wish that today's symposium will lead to the realization of a world without nuclear weapons, which is the long-cherished wish of everyone present today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your insightful and heartfelt comments, Yuko Baba-san. Now we start the next segment, which is really the panel discussion itself, and focus on how to advance the global agenda of a nuclear-free world. And here we will explore the consequences of the use of these weapons in that fateful August 1946, and why it's so important to achieve a world without nuclear weapons. We will see the consequences from various perspectives: humanitarian, environmental, the larger discussions around sustainability and youth empowerment. But just a quick introduction, because I'll go into a more detailed introduction before I give the floor to the panel members. Ambassador Desiree Schweitzer, I've already introduced you to. Then we have Hidehiko Yuzaki-san, the governor of the Prefecture of Hiroshima, and a friend. Professor Kazuko Hikawa, who's the Vice Director of the Research Center for Nuclear Weapons Abolition from Nagasaki University. Ms. Vanessa Kenola, who's a participant of the first cohort of the UN ODA Youth Leader Fund for a World Without Nuclear Weapons. First, let me turn to Ambassador sitting immediately to my left about the humanitarian approach that the government of Austria has taken towards nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. As you all know, Austria hosts several international organizations focused on nuclear issues. The Government of Austria clearly places great emphasis on the humanitarian risks associated with nuclear weapons and strongly supports international efforts to eliminate these risks. Your government also advocates for promoting international responsibility and the adoption of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. You must have two questions which you can answer together or in any order that you see. Please tell us more about the Austrian government's approach towards nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation, and also explain the findings of the Austrian Federal Ministry for Europe and International Affairs study on the impact of nuclear weapons on the environment and its complex humanitarian consequences. Over to you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, and I want to take the questions in the order you posed them. Again, it's a pleasure to be here and be part of such a distinguished panel. Austria is deeply committed to the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime. We have ratified all instruments in the nuclear field, and we even implement them fully. Our position on nuclear weapons is informed by our history and geography in the center of Europe. Nuclear weapons were a very present danger in the days of the Cold War and regrettably are again today. It is therefore clear that we need a strong and functioning regime to address the existential threat that nuclear weapons pose to humanity. We are convinced that a profound paradigm shift away from the ill-fated belief that nuclear weapons can be a guarantor of security is needed. to remove the nuclear sword of Damocles from above our heads, to paraphrase President Kennedy. The humanitarian and environmental consequences and the risks associated with nuclear weapons make nuclear deterrence a precarious and unsustainable approach to global security. And this is, in our view, the raison d'etre of the nuclear disarmament regime and the ultimate motivation behind Austria's approach to this issue. You all know Austria is heavily invested in the TPNW. The treaty is based on scientific evidence of the humanitarian consequences and risks and makes the argument for a comprehensive prohibition of nuclear weapons. I want to use my time here to share some of the history and the reasoning that explains why states decided that the TPNW is needed. As I said, Austria takes the position that only the total elimination of these weapons can address their inherent risks and their catastrophic humanitarian effects. Austria and many other states, as well as civil society, successfully reframed the narrative around nuclear disarmament away from the security interest of a few states to the wider concerns of all humanity. And this humanitarian approach has its beginnings in the 2010 NPT action plan, where all NPT states parties stressed their, and I quote, deep concern about the humanitarian consequences of any use of nuclear weapons, end of quote. Several widely supported joint statements in the United Nations General Assembly, as well as a series of international conferences followed, focusing on the humanitarian dimension and the risks of nuclear weapons. They culminated in 2016 in the adoption of the UNGA resolution on taking forward multilateral nuclear disarmament negotiations, which was co-launched by Austria. Based on this resolution, negotiations on an international nuclear ban within the framework of the United Nations were held in the following year. And these negotiations concluded with the adoption of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which opened for signature in 2017 and entered into force in 2021. And today, over 90 countries have signed, and over 70 countries have ratified the treaty. The treaty itself is based on a body of compelling scientific evidence and on the humanitarian consequences and risks of nuclear weapons. It not only prohibits nuclear weapons, but also sets out positive obligations of assistance for victims of nuclear weapons use and nuclear weapons testing, of environmental remediation, and of cooperation and assistance. In several states that are parties of the TPNW, there are communities and areas that have been very heavily impacted by past nuclear weapons testing, as you mentioned. The TPNW brings into focus the rights of victims as well as affected communities and addresses the humanitarian harm that has been caused. And this in turn underscores the need for prevention. So while the TPNW cannot force anyone to give up nuclear weapons, it provides a pathway and a compelling rationale to move away from them. And this is maybe more important today than ever, at a time when unacceptable nuclear rhetoric is being used and we see a dangerous nuclear arms race dynamic unfold before our eyes. I want to conclude this point and stress once again that Austria will continue to act as a staunch advocate for a world without nuclear weapons. And now I want to turn to the second question on our study, which I want to show to you. This is the study, and it should be available at our mission, from our mission, or if you contact us later. So the study was commissioned by Austria. It was published in 2023 and presented at the last PrEPCom in Vienna. It provides an overview of the latest studies in the field of nuclear weapons and their impact, and it focuses on the humanitarian consequences and risks of nuclear weapons. We cooperated with the University of York, and the authors, Dr. Nick Ritchie and Mikhail Kuprianov, compiled academic research that covers the past 15 years. As you mentioned, the study also includes the impact on the environment, as well as a range of other factors, for instance, nuclear decision-making and the impact of new technologies, such as artificial intelligence. The study was to increase the understanding of the complex consequences and risks and to put the diplomatic work on a solid, factual and scientific basis. In our view, increased awareness and knowledge are crucial to understand the urgency of global action to prevent any use of nuclear weapons. They're also necessary to make progress in nuclear disarmament and to move away from the current security paradigm that is based on the threat with potentially global humanitarian consequences. The study showcases a wide range of scientific findings stemming from recent peer-reviewed research. Those are based on the one hand on empirical analysis of the past, including the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the effects of nuclear testing, close calls and accidents, and nuclear doctrines. And on the other hand, they are based on modeling and simulations of nuclear war and its consequences, in particular when it comes to human fatalities and environmental effects, but also the capacity of the international community to address them. I don't want to go into further details, but just quote the three main conclusions, which are: first, nuclear war would be a catastrophe with cascading consequences that potentially scale all the way to collapse of human civilization. Second, the risk of nuclear war is non-zero, is becoming more complex, and claims to be able to manage and control that risk are illusory. And the third conclusion, claims about the benefits of nuclear deterrence that justify the risks of shared catastrophe are empirically contested and shown to be contingent. So these findings are compelling, and they underscore the urgency of moving away from a security approach based on nuclear weapons. The findings demand very serious policy considerations at the global level, and I recommend all of you to read the study. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Schweitzer, for sharing your insights on both those questions that I had asked of you. I think the logic of nuclear deterrence, the approach, and the flaws of that approach, and the need for people to understand and get educated in the faulty logic of that approach. Here, the results of your study and its conclusions are all very powerful to help people and humanity rethink how they traditionally think about some of these issues. As UNITAR, our mission is also long-term on education and learning as the only way to change our behavior. And I think the efforts you're making, I hope that people can access and read the results of your report, because a very important part of the penny dropping and people thinking of these things very differently. So thank you so much, Ambassador, for bringing all these to this meeting. It's now a great pleasure for me to introduce the Governor of Hiroshima Prefecture, Yuzaki-san. He has been there since 2010, if I remember, over almost 15 years as the governor. He keeps getting re-elected, which is a signal of his great popularity in the prefecture. And there, of course, when you go to Hiroshima, for those of us who had the fortune of going there, you get moved by the experiences and the way in which the city recalls and remembers. Never forget is the kind of message of Hiroshima, of the stupidity that was done in Hiroshima. So I think that message comes very strongly, and I think you have managed, Governor, to preserve that legacy and focus on resilience. It's a beautiful, sustainable city today, and we are always charmed by Hiroshima when we go there. So there are memories of what happened that day, but everywhere around you see resilience, and you see how Hiroshima managed to bounce back and has become such a vibrant city. In 2021, the Hiroshima Organization for Global Peace, HOPE, was established with the aim of creating a new mechanism for peace, starting from Hiroshima, that does not rely on nuclear deterrence, which you mentioned also, Ambassador Desiree. Hiroshima not only presents the history of the atomic bombing and recovery, but also promotes various peace initiatives for sharing the hibakusha. And the hibakusha, of course, the survivors that I mentioned earlier, their testimonies, their peace education and civic engagements. I have two questions for you too, Governor. The first one, if you could share your perspectives on how the experiences and peace building activities from Hiroshima can help establish a world without nuclear weapons and achieve sustainable peace? And additionally, what progress have you made so far, and what kind of efforts and collaboration do you believe are needed even more looking to the future? Over to you, Governor.
Well, thank you very much, Nikhil-san, for very kind introduction, and you beautifully laid out the what you will see in Hiroshima, and I hope any of you who have visited Hiroshima or Nagasaki, we would like to welcome you, and not only the testimonies and the museums and the memories of the bombing. We have a lot of charms in Hiroshima, so please come to Hiroshima and or Nagasaki to see both the the scars and the charms of the places. Well, and again, well, thank you again for your introduction. I'm Hidehiko Izaki, Governor of Hiroshima Prefecture, and the President of HOPE, which Nikhil-san kindly introduced. It's really a great pleasure and honor to co-organize this event, and I'd like to thank the UNITAR and Austrian government, and also the Nagasaki Prefecture to propose this. So the answers to the questions. Was all of you know, in the summer of 1945, 79 years ago, the first atomic bomb was dropped at the center of Hiroshima City. As a result, citizens of Hiroshima experienced extensive and unprecedented devastation. Subsequently, however, Hiroshima rose from the ashes of nuclear destruction, driven by its citizens' firm resolution to revive the city and generous support from the international community. Regarding the process of the city's recovery, it's particularly notable that with assistance from their supporters, even survivors or hibakusha played a leading role in raising public awareness, which in turn drove national policies. Amid agonies, they continued to raise their voice and work on the government to take appropriate policies. As a result, a comprehensive support program comprising medical, healthcare, and welfare measures was undertaken for hibakusha, including those living outside of Japan. Well, however, even after the full reconstruction of the city of Hiroshima and the implementation of the comprehensive support program for hibakusha, the people killed by the atomic bombings will never return. Well, even worse, survivors have been and are still struggling with after effects. Based on this experience, the Hiroshima Prefecture is engaged in a program to ensure that there will be no more hibakushas, while supporting the hibakusha living inside and outside of Japan, along with the bereaved families of the victims. Well, specifically, we are working to eliminate nuclear weapons from the world no later than 2045, which will mark the centennial of the atomic bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Well, to advance nuclear weapon abolition, Hiroshima Prefecture takes the following three approaches. The first, promoting awareness of the humanitarian impact of the use of a nuclear weapon, and two, seeking an alternative security system that does not rely on nuclear deterrence. And the third, review the issues of nuclear weapons from the viewpoint of sustainability. Well, through these approaches, we take various initiatives to create a peaceful world without nuclear weapons. Well, in the first approach, to promote global awareness of the humanitarian impact of the use of a nuclear weapon, we invite world leaders to Hiroshima and Nagasaki so that they can observe firsthand the tragic effects of the atomic bombs. We also organize educational programs on disarmament for young people. Well, I'm pleased that UNITAR, a co-organizer of this event, has its office in Hiroshima and works with us to develop future leaders in the areas of disarmament and the post-conflict reconstruction. The second approach is taken to break away from the dependence on nuclear deterrence through the pursuit of an alternative security system that does not rely on nuclear deterrence. Well, today I'd like to describe in more detail the third approach or the sustainability approach. We take this approach to include nuclear weapons issues in the list of global challenges that affects the sustainable future of Earth and humankind. Well, there are many global challenges affecting our sustainable future. Such challenges, I believe, many of you think of issues like climate change, pandemic, and gender issues, or food crisis. We believe that nuclear issues should be added to this list of global challenges. While it took 200 years for global warming and 3 years for the COVID pandemic to threaten human sustainability, nuclear weapons can annihilate humankind in only 30 minutes after somebody pressed the button, completely denying the sustainability of the Earth and humankind. But this is imminent risk, as there are no 100% guarantee of no nuclear weapon use, intentionally or not intentionally. Well, in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, we are witnessing a nuclear state backed by its nuclear capability invading a non-nuclear state, which has caused a global food supply shortage. Well, in this way, nuclear issues are closely interconnected with the sustainability of the Earth and humankind. The very existence of nuclear weapons impacts the sustainable future of the Earth and mankind. Well, nuclear weapons can never ensure sustainable security, but rather, if they are used even once, whether accidentally or intentionally, they can annihilate a huge number of people in an instant. But moreover, over the long term, nuclear winter and the radiation will threaten the peaceful lives of citizens across the globe and cause social, economic, environmental, and various other crises. Well, last year, more than $90 billion were invested in the world to maintain and even to increase nuclear weapons. And many people of both the public and private sectors are involved in nuclear programs. To build a sustainable society, it's indispensable to allocate such resources to programs to decrease the number of nuclear weapons. Well, it's indispensable that all states in the world collaborate in programs towards nuclear abolition. Well, Hiroshima Prefecture and the Hope wish to share this recognition with a wide range of stakeholders who are working to protect the future of the Earth and humankind. But from the new viewpoint of sustainability, we are striving to include the abolition of nuclear weapons in the 2045 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which will come after the present goals of the SDGs. Well, as a step forward towards this end, we are planning to organize a meeting of the group of friends network of state members that support our plan. Well, together with a wide range of stakeholders, we will review the issues of nuclear weapons from the viewpoint of sustainability to advocate related policies and promote campaigns. Well, yesterday we held a briefing for government members in Geneva who are responsible for disarmament. Well, on that occasion, I explained the interconnectedness between nuclear issues and global sustainability to seek their understanding and cooperation. Well, I'm pleased that government members from 13 countries attended. Well, unfortunately, the general debate was still going on, schedule was changed, while our session was going. But still, 13 members attended the briefing, and some, and many stated positive comments on this. Professor Hikawa, one of today's panelists, has compiled a vision paper of HOPE's working group on nuclear disarmament and a sustainable future. Well, on various occasions, she has also described the interconnectedness between nuclear issues and global sustainability. Also, Hiroshima Prefecture and Nagasaki Prefecture have been lobbying together on various occasions, particularly at international conferences. Well, finally, we definitely need your support, all of you, for our initiatives to build a sustainable future world without nuclear weapons. I truly hope that we can work together with you all. Thank you very much.
Governor Yuzaki-san, thank you for all those insights, including the fact that the linkage between nuclear disarmament and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the future of the next iteration of the Sustainable Development Goals should take all this nexus also into account as they develop something meaningful for our world. And thank you for the amplification that you have done through your work in Hiroshima of the voices and actions and hope of the citizens of Hiroshima, for contributing towards building a sustainable and more peaceful world. Thank you so much, Governor. It's now our third panelist, and we have Professor Kazuko Hikawa-san, who is the Vice Director of the Research Center for Nuclear Weapons Abolition at Nagasaki University. During her 24 years as a diplomat with the Japanese Foreign Service, Professor Hikawa actively participated in nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation discussions. Since 2002, she's been engaged in the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons review process and also served as assistant to the chair of the main committee at the 2010 NPT conference. My questions to you, Professor Hikawa-san, can you explain the relationship between nuclear disarmament and other cross-cutting subjects, including on the issue of gender and nuclear disarmament? And in your opinion, why have we not seen progress towards nuclear disarmament? And what do you think is the key to advancing towards a world without nuclear weapons? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Success. Yes, and actually, yes, I've been involved in Japanese Foreign Service more than 20 years, and most of the time I've been working for nuclear disarmament agendas. And as you know, I've been so frustrated. So this is also one reason why I left the ministry, and I joined academia, and I continue my research on nuclear disarmament. So what I will speak now today here is with this background. So I'm talking a little bit, something new maybe for you, but please don't take it somehow, insane or something like that. I'm pretty much serious. After I've been working more than 20 years in nuclear disarmament field, this is my answer to the question, especially regarding the interconnectedness between nuclear disarmament and other issues. So, when it comes to interconnectedness of nuclear disarmament issues and other fields, it's the UN member states. They have already recognized that there are interrelatedness and interconnectedness between like environmental issues, climate change, conflicts, great division among states, and of course, including international peace and security issues. By adopting the declaration commemorating of 75th UN anniversary in 2020. If you go back to the declaration, you will find very clearly that the member states agree that these issues are all interrelated and interconnected. And they made 12 commitments to overcome all these issues, including international peace and security and nuclear weapons abolition. They have agreed on that already, all these issues. The problem is, however, what I found is, while they are recognizing that all these issues are interrelated and interconnected, they have not proposed any concrete solutions or proposals to solve these interconnectedness. These issues are all held in individual fields, separately from each other and discussed in each premise. Don't you agree with that? I didn't see anywhere. Thank you. I'm seeing nowhere that these issues are held together in a holistic manner. The word holistic is different from the word from comprehensive. Comprehensive means, to cover everything. We do not leave anything behind, just leave everything to cover everything. But holistic is different. Holistic means, I think this is my understanding, holistic means to address the issues altogether in an integrated manner, with understanding these issues are all connected. So I was wondering what should we do, where I can find a solution. Then last year in December, I found a book written by an Austrian activist and writer. He proposes, the title of the book is in German, Gemeinwohl only. In English version, I have a copy here. Change everything by Prefecture. Yes, he proposed, that all the issues we are facing, not only, the nuclear weapon issues, but division, conflicts, environmental destruction, everything. It's coming from one issue, which is the problem of our society. So unless we do not change our society, we cannot solve all these problems. And there is one issue, the big problem of our society is our society is based on competition and profit-seeking system, economic system. Our economic system is broken. Because, our constitutions or the UN Charter, all of these, the rules we have are promoting cooperation, human dignity, solidarity, all these good things. And these are the values we have. These are universal values. But only economic textbook is promoting competition and profit seeking. There are gaps. And I'm sure that you know that there are so many people, experts, are proposing to change our economic system, right? And Mr. Felber is also proposing to change our economic system somewhere in the middle between capitalism and communism, a new system, new way of thinking, to value or to promote our common values, human dignity, solidarity, democracy, and social, ecological sustainability is included. It is pointing for values, I will repeat it, human dignity, ecological sustainability, social justice, and democracy. So I think I have to stop here because I spoke already enough long. I just propose you to have this book, and also I have submitted an article about this idea in our research policy paper published by our research center for nuclear weapons operation. So I very much appreciate if you would have a look at these items. Thank you very much.
Professor Mikawa-san, thank you for your comprehensive and holistic response to my two questions. And of course, by quoting the professor whose book you referenced on the need for societal change and the fact that the values enshrined in the UN and the UN Charter and by all of us for change are based on solidarity and cooperation and compassion. And yet we have sometimes an economic system which is promoting the opposite. It's promoting competition and profit seeking. These are interesting insights. So these kind of societal changes, of course, once again, I come back to the importance of learning and education and how we can move to different societal arrangements where some of these issues are comprehensively addressed. In fact, all the scientists on the IPCC also, that is on the panel on climate change, there are 3,500 scientists engaged in that process. Their conclusion is similar. They're saying that climate change can only be matched by dramatic societal transformation in every aspect of human life. And we are not seeing that dramatic restructuring of our societies anywhere. So it's a big challenge, but we have to be up to it. Now I turn to our youth representative, Ms. Vanessa Canola, who is a participant of UN Office of Disarmament Affairs first cohort of the Youth Leader Fund for a World Without Nuclear Weapons. She is among the 50 young people selected from over 1,500 applications to join the first cohort of the Youth Leader Fund for a World Without Nuclear Weapons. The Youth Leader Fund is run by the UN Office for Disarmament Affairs in New York, and UNITAR is partnering with them in the implementation. So you've been an intern with UNODA in Vienna, where she works on multilateral forums related to nuclear safety and security, nuclear tests, illicit trafficking of firearms, and peaceful uses of outer space, and has contributed to disarmament education. You've also been engaged in several youth initiatives in disarmament and international security, including the Hiroshima G7 Youth Summit in Hiroshima, which UNITAR was very happy to be involved and associated with. And she was an Italian youth delegate to the 2023 Youth Meeting of States, parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. What motivated you? So I have set up 3 questions for you, and I'll add a 4th for good luck. As to what has motivated you to work in the field of nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation? What is the Youth Leader Fund program about? And as a future change maker, what do you think about young people's role in achieving a world without nuclear weapons? And linked to this is my own question that your generation and the generations many in this room represent, there's a sea change in attitudes on issues like deterrence and the other underlying philosophy of what has made our world on the nuclear front what it is today. Do you all you young people think differently? And what are the levers of power that you need to push to create some of this change? Of course, the grand societal change will come later, but what can we do immediately to make change happen?
So, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to the organizers for the kind introduction and also for the questions. I'm honored to participate in this side event and share my insights on disarmament education and youth engagement. Before elaborating more on the YLF, the Youth Leader Fund for a World Without Nuclear Weapons, a training program, as it was mentioned before, organized by UNODA, UNITAR, and the Government of Japan, I would like to start from the genesis of my disarmament journey to answer your question about the motivation that actually brought me here. Although dating back many years, I recall where my disarmament journey started. I found myself in Budapest, visiting the so-called hospital in the rock, military hospital that was transformed to a nuclear bunker during the Cold War. Besides the shocking elements of the exhibition held in the bunker, such as the gas masks or suits to protect personnel against radiation in case of a nuclear attack, I do remember entering the last room of the museum, a tunnel that honored the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where colorful drawings on the nuclear attacks made by Japanese students and origami paper cranes were exposed as a symbol of anti-nuclear activism, peace, and nuclear resilience. Since that precise moment, when I realized the power of disarmament activism, I decided to engage in several activities to work towards a world without nuclear weapons, trying to bridge my personal interests, values, and also professional path. During my master's studies, I started to work for the disarmament section at the EU delegation here in Geneva, actually. This internship gave me the opportunity to participate in several negotiations and understand how the disarmament machinery works. However, it was only after being selected to represent my country, Italy, at the Hiroshima G7 Youth Summit in Japan, organized by ICANN, that I was able to hear firsthand the stories of those who suffered from the consequences of the weapons being debated in those multilateral fora. In Japan, I had the precious chance to listen to Hibakusha Keiko Zogura's moving story, and I realized the urgency of conveying the victims' peace messages on a broader scale. In my last role as a political affairs intern at the UNODA, my involvement in the disarmament education became more tangible than ever. By conducting briefings for high school and university students, as well as young diplomats, I felt empowered to raise awareness about disarmament and do my best to change the narrative, starting from empowering the future generation of leaders. With my participation in the Youth Leader Fund for a World Without Nuclear Weapons, I decided to go one step further. And I understood the power of leadership, which means working hard to achieve the goals I strongly believe in, such as disarmament, and inspiring others to join the cause and be the change they wish to see in the world. The YLF is an innovative learning program aimed at equipping 100 participants aged 18 to 29 from all over the world and from so many different backgrounds with the knowledge, skills, and network to join global efforts to eliminate nuclear weapons. Organized by UNODA and the Government of Japan, it has several components. First of all, a self-paced e-learning modules on key disarmament and non-proliferation issues, skills-building workshops, live webinars, mentorship program to support the next cohort of young leaders, and one in-person study tour to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, combined with the participation in a youth-led conference. During the study tour, we'll have the opportunity to visit the two cities and listen to the precious stories of the victims, which are stories that we will treasure forever. Considering that now the Hibakusha are actually aging, we now have the responsibility to spread their peace messages on their behalf and achieve the goal of a more peaceful world. Through the organization of this youth-led conference, organized by youth and also for youth, we aim to achieve a tangible outcome, a youth declaration, to advance a set of requests. These requests include preserving the memory of the Hibakusha, nuclear justice, and also ways to revitalize the discussions in the field of disarmament. This document, if agreed by consensus, and you all know the process better than we do probably, will be presented at a multilateral forum, such as the First Committee, or during other significant events. Each of us is championing a specific cause, and through this conference, we aim to highlight potential areas of convergence and steps forward during challenging times where divergences seem to prevail. Before wrapping up, I would love to share one of the main takeaways from the YLF, in particular from the skills building workshop on leadership. To be a great leader, we were asked to choose one core value we hold dear from such a long list. I can read you a few examples. Altruism, authenticity, collaboration, commitment, inclusivity, diversity, gratitude, responsibility, or teamwork. After doing so, we're asked to reflect on how we could align our actions in our professional lives with these core values. Values are a moral compass that guides us in professional life, the key for being a good leader and for inspiring others to become one. Having said this, now I would like to invite the audience to self-reflect a little bit. Are you actually currently aligning your values with your job? This is the first step for driving positive change from inside, from your team, your organization, or your permanent mission, for example. Don't worry, I leave this question open so you don't have to answer now, but I just wanted to give you food for thought. And another important lesson we learn is that leadership does not happen in isolation. It means building trust, it means building good relationship with others by recognizing their contributions, for example, creating a community spirit. This is especially crucial for youth, for example, as it encourages growth and meaningful participation. By actively engaging with and valuing the perspectives of others, leaders can cultivate an inclusive environment that nurtures mutual support. At the end of the day, progress is not a matter of one generation against the other. Progress means working together to achieve mutual goals, such as disarmament, for example. When it comes to youth engagement, there is so much to say. And it is also possible to say that our group of 100 leaders is already active on so many different fronts. Some of us create content on social media, for example, to raise awareness. Some of us funded NGOs to work on specific topics, for example, in the field. Some others are conducting research. Some others, again, like me, are trying to combine a professional path in diplomacy with activism to bring the voice of youth into multilateral fora, such as this one, where disarmament matters are being discussed. Paraphrasing Sumi Nakamitsu, you probably all know her, it is necessary to decide about the future of youth, which is now threatened by existential threats, with youth in the room. And this is very important. However, being granted a seat at the table is only the first step to include youth in the discussion. Reading a statement, although extremely important, can be only a facade. Driving positive change means funding opportunities, providing scholarships, accessible training courses, listening to different ideas and incorporating them into documents, for example, and making sure to hold dear the values of gender equality, inclusion, and equal representation for every project or initiative to make sure that every voice is actually heard. On a daily basis, however, this commitment should translate into providing youth with opportunities to grow and to step outside their comfort zones, such in the workplace, for example, offering constructive feedback, allowing them to learn from mistakes without fear, and providing mentorship rather than just supervision. True progress demands way more than symbolic gestures. It requires a dedication to nurturing young people's potential and incorporating their perspectives meaningfully. This involves creating an environment where youth voices are heard and also genuinely valued. This approach actually reflects the true essence of leadership, aligning values with actions, with concrete actions, and driving consistent, impactful change every day, not only for oneself, but also for the others. And if I can, I will answer to the very last question. Actually, yes, there is a difference in approaching nuclear disarmament, and different generations might have different views, for example. The current generation, I have to say, is very focused on the topics that we discussed before, for example, deterrence, but not only, balance of power or mutual assured destruction. Those are basically the concepts that were super popular during the Cold War. Our generation is adopting a slightly different approach. So we are not considering the security of single states in a very traditional way, so in terms of security of sovereign states, but we are going beyond those limits. We are considering existential threats, as they were mentioned before, such as climate change, but not only, also human rights violation or the threats of artificial intelligence. So there is way, way more. And we are basically adopting a human security approach. So we are kind of distancing ourselves from the realist topics and the realist arguments that were very popular during the Cold War. Adopting, and we are also focusing on a constructivist approach when it comes to nuclear security and nuclear disarmament. And this is basically the fil rouge that is very common in our group, for example, of 100 leaders. So we have all the same goal. And this should be also something taken into account during the NPT negotiations. For example, we have to go beyond traditional security to reach consensus and to reach concrete achievements, actually. This is possible. Obviously, it's hard. But disarmament should not be seen as business as usual. It's a very important and urgent topic to be discussed. And there is room for improvement. So this is very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa-san. Now, the time is yours, distinguished audience, for you to make a comment or to ask a question. If you're asking a question and you want to address it specifically to panelists, mention the panelists to whom you want to ask a question. For those of you who feel more comfortable in making your comment, asking your question in Japanese, Miyoko-san has kindly agreed to translate it sequentially. So after you pose your question, she will translate it and then give it to the panel. So the floor is yours. And please, as I give you the floor, introduce yourself and ask a specific question addressed to the right panelists, and keep yourself confined to 1 minute because we have time constraints. And I wanted to tell the panelists that I'm going to come back to you with 1 minute at the end, either to respond to the questions or to make a last comment or share a thought which you forgot when you first made your intervention. Yes, I see you. Please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you very much. Alan Ware, Global Coordinator of Parliamentarians for Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Disarmament. My question is for the Governor of Hiroshima Prefecture. Our organisation has joined with the Hiroshima Prefecture and the Hiroshima Organisation for Global Peace to support the goal of having nuclear disarmament included in the post-2030 Sustainable Development Goals, with the objective of achieving the global elimination of nuclear weapons no later than the end of that next round of the Sustainable Development Goals, i.e. 2045. There are two really important UN summits coming up to advance this goal. The UN Summit of the Future in September this year, and the UN Summit for Social Development next year. Civil society is bringing this goal forward to the first summit in the People's Pact for the Future. So we have this goal in the People's Pact for the Future. We hope that the governments will pick this up. We're really interested in what ideas you have for building the momentum behind this goal in both of these summits, the Summit of the Future and the Summit for Social Development. And we will please to cooperate with you the best way we can with our networks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'll take a set of questions and then we can go back to the panel. You wanted to ask a question? Please go.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Tarak Rao, former Head of Verification and Security Policy at the International Atomic Energy Agency. I wanted to first commend both Austria and UNITAR for organizing this event, and Governor Yuzaki for his presence, and also Professor Mihoko, whom I had the privilege of working with when she was a Japanese diplomat, and I'm happy to see the youth representatives here as well. So I just wanted to follow up on the question that was made by Alan Ware, that here at the NPT PrepCom, the discussion is still very antiseptic. We use concepts such as undiminished and equal security for all, strategic stability, without there being any agreed understanding on the meaning or the definition. So if we are to broaden our scope, because the nuclear weapons enterprise that goes beyond nuclear warheads themselves affects now all manner of life, and as was mentioned by the Austrian ambassador with the new study done by the Austrian Foreign Ministry under the leadership of Ambassador Alexander Clement, this aspect needs to be put more firmly forward in the NPT review process and to be reflected in the outcome document. So the question both is to Austria and to Governor Yuzaki and also to Professor Ikawa. Thank you.
I saw some hand up over there. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question from this side? Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Hi, Kenneth Chu with the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation from the United States. My question is on topics of education on nuclear weapons in Western education, especially academia on the college level. That's what I am familiar with. There is a lack of education on nuclear disarmament. a lot of the topics are on security. I think the youth delegate was talking about this, and it's a lot of security arguments and deterrence. And that kind of creates some of the issues of the lack of public knowledge about nuclear disarmament. But my specific question is, working in academia, this would be directed towards Professor. How do you make a change in academia to where this topic is discussed more? And what are some concrete steps that a student can take or on the professor level? Thank you.
Okay, I think we are on time, and I will start in the order that we started our panel. And Ambassador Desiree, I'll give you the floor first.
Thank you. I think I can combine it already with my, so to speak, concluding remarks. Yes, we're following very closely what's happening at the global level, of course, Summit of the Future, the outcome documents, and we are, as you know, the negotiations are ongoing. The topic is somehow covered, and we'll see how it can be covered in the end more, or it's part of a big package, of course. And but this is, of course, on top of our agenda as well as Austria. We know that without non-nuclear countries pushing for the provisions of the NPT, we might face a new nuclear arms race with all the risks accompanying it. And the study I mentioned showcases also accidents and close calls that happened in the past. So the longer nuclear weapons exist, the higher the risk that there might be an incident with global consequences. So we all have to fight against that.
Well, yes, thank you for the questions. And first, I've been working for having discussions with the state members regarding the Summit of the Future and beyond. One, of course, as Ambassador mentioned, we would like to maintain the language in the final document for the Summit of the Future, mentioning the importance of the nuclear disarmament. And also, we've been talking about this topic, today's topic of interconnections between nuclear weapon issues and other issues. And we've been trying to create a group of friends among member states to make this coalition of agenda. Nuclear weapon issue, it's one of the most imminent global issues. Pandemic, climate change, all those existential threats needs to be comprehensively or holistically resolved, and also, of course, with the NGOs, and we are inviting NGOs who are interested or who are working on each of these specific issues to work together in the framework of GASPA, which is like a friends of group of friends of the NGOs, and also So again, many issues are all interconnected. It's beyond, of course, warheads, and the nuclear system itself is also very complicated. It involves a huge number of people and huge number of industries and enterprises, and we need to address those issues too as a system to change the nuclear dependence on nuclear deterrence. And that relates to the education, which was addressed to Professor Hikawa, but I think the disarmament should be part of security. they are not really different things. I mean, the problem is now it's in its silos. Disarmament is disarmament, security is security. But disarming or arms control is part of security actually, and we have to think in that way. And also, security is not only the national security, but it's human security, as Professor Hikawa mentioned, and they're all integrated. There is no if human security is at risk, even if the national security is secured. What's the meaning of that? Right? People are dying about national security. Well, nations are good, but the people are all dead. That's just really stupid thing. And so they all have to be resolved here, I think. And the education should be included too.
Professor Hikawa-san?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the questions. And what Governor Yuzaki mentioned just now is pretty much, I would pretty much resonate with what Governor Yuzaki just mentioned. Yes, disarmament is a part of security. This is what I have learned in the course of very at the beginning of my career. My supervisor always told me that the disarmament is for the security, and what then the security means is that security means whether it is safe for all the people, for all the nations. See, and the international peace and security, the very objective of the establishment of the United Nations. The Article 1, number 1 of the United Nations Charter stipulates that objective of the United Nations is to maintain international peace and security. And in translated it into in Japanese version of the UN Charter, it says, it translated this word security, the same Japanese word for safety. Safety, yes, answer. And I think that's why the discussions along the disarmament issues should not be limited only to disarmament experts. We have to really broaden the discussions beyond our circles, our non-proliferation and disarmament circle. This is my point. And to the second question about the education, unfortunately, I don't have any classes anymore in our institution because it's a research center. But before I joined the research center, I was working at the private university in Osaka for 4 years, and I was always telling my students, because disarmament is important. But the point is that you have to learn from the history or from the work has been already done before by experts or by nations. There are so many, institutional memories there. You have to learn first what has been done in the past, and then find a solution. First find what was the problem. And there, I always point out that when the number of nuclear weapons started to be reduced, is it because of an international law? What happened? There is a graph. The number of nuclear weapons around the world, it has been increasing, and then it stopped to increase, and then it started to drop. What happened there on the top of the graph? No international law. That was the end of the Cold War. The security environment has changed. So that's what I'm saying is that, to change the society is so important. To change the security situation is so important, so crucial. Okay, I hope that I answered your question.
Thank you.
Vanessa-san?
Thank you so much. I really wanted to add a point concerning disarm education. It's true. In universities, again, we hear about deterrence, Cold War, and so on. but there some institutions actually they took some step forward. For example, take advantage this opportunity to promote the amazing work of my colleagues at UNODA in Vienna. They are focusing on disarmament education. So basically, through our disarmament education dashboard, students and also teachers, I have to say, because we have also to educate teachers and professors to spread, the right messages. There are so many free e-learning courses that are accessible to everybody. Also to diplomats, if they want to learn more, why not? So basically, this is a golden opportunity to try to change the narrative starting from disarmament education and countering those opinions again, forming and basically providing students with the right instruments to counter those visions. So just wanted to take a moment for advertisement. Sorry.
In concluding, give me also the permission to talk a little about opportunities for the future. I've been an old UN man as a delegate from India to the Security Council from 90 to 92, then actively engaged in the intergovernmental side on economic, social issues, and then in the Secretariat leading all the summits, including the SDG summit in which we've done. And I wanted to reflect on something which isn't coming out as forcefully, especially on the future opportunities. And here, I want to talk about some fundamental fault lines that exist in the governance systems of international organizations, as also in the way foreign offices run their missions in New York and probably Geneva, where the Iron Curtain still exists. The political and security issues are treated totally differently from the economic, social, sustainable development issues. During the SDG discussions, for example, which I had a ringside seat and led in 2030, many countries argued that why don't we get all these other issues? Why don't we talk about the peace dividend? Why don't we get nuclear issues? But delegations told us, hey, that's a different world. That's Security Council, Peace Building Commission. That's got nothing to do with the economic and social apparatus and the sustainable development apparatus of the UN. Climate change, it's handled essentially in Bonn, with the processes in Bonn, the way they are. And the enmeshing of that with even broader security issues doesn't take place. If you look at missions today, most foreign missions, in New York at least, the economic wing, this environmental wing is quite different from the political wing. Who look at issues around the Security Council and look at issues around the First Committee in New York, they don't enmesh. They handle a different part of the system. And these summits that we are talking about are all led by either different parts of the Secretariat or different parts of the political leadership of the United Nations, which are member states. So something fundamental has to be done to reflect the type of holistic vision of our future with the way in which our institutions and our mechanisms are organized. And to change that, you can't expect the Pact of the Future. In any case, the Pact of the Future is in its revision to the summit itself is taking place in the third week of September. If the things you want are not there in the draft now, it's unlikely that they'll get introduced between now and September. When you're looking at the social summit to be handled by a different part of the missions, how are you getting all these ideas there? So equal thought has to be given on institutional reform, on changing the mechanisms of considering political outcomes in the United Nations. I just wanted to add that because I think it's easy to find fault in processes, but the fault is within the way we all are organized to look at issues in compartmentalized, in silos everywhere. You heard all of us, and I wonder if there's any last comment or questions, or we can wish you all. Yes, please, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you very much. Just wanted to add to what Kazuko said. I'm also teaching at Nagasaki University. I'm Michio Nishida. I was also a former Japanese diplomat like Kazuko. I just wanted to clarify that our university, Nagasaki University, offers both at undergraduate and graduate level disarmament education courses. And we teach not just the international disarmament, but also international security, international politics, but also human security, humanitarian consequences, and civil society movement. And so pretty much holistically, we teach disarmament. For both undergraduate and graduate students. So thank you very much. I just wanted to add.
Thank you. It's great that at least academia is getting it right. Yes, we have one last question.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, could I take this opportunity to recognize the excellent work done by the UNITAR Hiroshima office, led by Mihoko Kamamoto-san and her 2 staff members there, Junko Shimatsu and Yukaheya, and of course with the support of Governor Yuzaki and his establishment. So for several years, they've been doing an education and training course for diplomats from Asia Pacific. Several of them end up here at NPT meetings. So I wanted to use this opportunity to commend UNITAR for its excellent work and also the governor of Hiroshima.
Thank you. There's nothing that pleases the executive director of UNITAR than to hear praise about this organization. So thank you so much for that. And with that, I think we've come to the end of a wonderful meeting. And there's only time to thank first the co-hosts, especially you, Ambassador, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki for having co-sponsored this activity today, for all of you who have come, and the distinguished presence of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Hiroshima Assembly. Arigato gozaimasu.